Vietnam's $68 billion high-speed rail dream, a story of ambition, setbacks, and uncertain futures. There's an infrastructure project taking shape in Vietnam that could fundamentally transform the entire nation. Stretching more than 1,500 kilometers across challenging terrain, this ambitious railway carries a jaw-dropping price tag of approximately $68 billion. For years, Vietnamese officials hoped China would help turn this vision into reality. But Beijing's response remained consistently cool and non-committal. Then something remarkable happened on December 17th of last year. Vietnam announced it had secured an agreement with Siemens, the German transportation giant, to finally move forward with building the high-speed railway. Across the country, people celebrated. After more than a decade of false starts, constantly changing plans, and endless debates over routes and financing, the project finally seemed ready to launch. Vietnam appeared poised to enter the high-speed rail era. But just 8 days later, everything collapsed. The entire project suddenly faced the very real possibility of complete failure. What went so catastrophically wrong in barely more than a week? And why did China repeatedly refuse to participate in what could have been one of Southeast Asia's most transformative infrastructure undertakings? If you're interested in stories exploring infrastructure, geopolitics, and economic development, subscribe so you won't miss future content. Now let's examine what's really happening with Vietnam's troubled railway ambitions. A geography problem that demands a railway solution. Look at Vietnam on any map, and one feature immediately dominates: its distinctive elongated shape, a narrow corridor stretching nearly 1,700 kilometers from north to south. This unique geography creates both tremendous opportunity and serious challenge. A single modern railway running the country's length could connect all major urban centers, Hanoi, Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City, dramatically improving transportation efficiency and unlocking enormous economic potential. But to understand the urgency behind Vietnam's railway ambitions, you need to see the disastrous state of current infrastructure. Of approximately 3,000 kilometers of existing rail networks, roughly 70% still operate on meter-gauge tracks originally laid during French colonial rule. Many of these lines have been in continuous use for over a century, and they're barely functional. The safety statistics are alarming. These aging railways experience frequent derailments, train collisions, and accidents at road crossings. Over just the past 2 years, Vietnam witnessed approximately 93 railway-related accidents, claiming more than 60 lives. In March last year, a freight train struck a stalled truck at an intersection. 3 carriages derailed, temporarily shutting down Vietnam's only north-south railway line. The entire national system ground to a halt over a single collision. For decades, Vietnamese leaders have recognized this crisis. Government officials repeatedly emphasized the urgent need to build a modern north-south high-speed railway. The original vision was bold: construct a state-of-the-art railway running from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City, more than 1,500 kilometers, with trains reaching speeds up to 300 kilometers per hour. The transformation would be dramatic. What currently requires more than 30 grueling hours of uncomfortable travel would shrink to a 6-hour journey. Beyond speed, the new system promised to eliminate accumulated safety hazards plaguing Vietnamese railways for generations. Early estimates suggested the project would cost around $56 billion. But as planning progressed, reality delivered harsh lessons: engineering nightmares and exploding costs. Vietnam's striking geography presents enormous engineering challenges. In the central region, mountains rise sharply and hills crowd together densely. For railway engineers, this terrain means one thing: extreme complexity. Technical assessments revealed sobering facts. Approximately 60% of the proposed route would require construction on elevated bridges. Another 10% would need tunnels bored through mountains. Less than 30% could use conventional ground-level construction. Each bridge section and tunnel dramatically increases both construction difficulty and cost. The result? For over 2 decades, the North-South high-speed railway remained trapped in endless planning cycles. Routes were redrawn, technical standards were debated and modified, financing models were proposed, rejected, and reimagined. Yet despite constant activity, the project never advanced beyond the drawing board. Meanwhile, estimated costs climbed steadily. That initial $56 billion figure, it now stands at $68 billion, a 21% increase reflecting both technical complexity and inflationary pressures. Consider the scale. Vietnam's entire 2024 GDP was approximately $430 billion. This single railway project represents nearly 16% of the nation's total annual economic output. For context, that's equivalent to the United States spending roughly $4 trillion on one infrastructure project, an almost unthinkable commitment. This financial reality made foreign partnership absolutely essential. Vietnam simply cannot shoulder this burden alone. Which brings us to the breakthrough moment last December. The German partnership hope and quick collapse. On December 17th last year, VinFast, the transportation subsidiary of Vietnam's powerful Vingroup conglomerate, formally signed a $68 billion cooperation agreement with Siemens Mobility. Across Vietnam, the announcement generated headline news. After years of disappointment, the North-South high-speed railway finally appeared ready to transition from concept to reality. The partnership structure revealed pragmatic thinking. Rather than building the entire 1,500-kilometer line simultaneously, the plan adopted a phased approach. Construction would begin with demonstration sections in areas showing highest passenger demand and most vibrant economic activity, likely around Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. The financing model was creative. Vingroup would provide approximately 20% as equity capital, roughly $13.6 billion. The remaining 80%, about $54.4 billion, would come through loans from Vietnam's central bank with a 35-year repayment period and zero interest. Siemens would supply core equipment systems, provide technical solutions, and help structure long-term financing through export credit agencies. The Vietnamese government would contribute policy support, facilitate land acquisition, and build connecting infrastructure. This division spread financial, technical, and policy risks across multiple participants, improving overall project viability. But why choose Germany over China or Japan? Siemens brings over a century of railway expertise. German railway solutions have earned reputations for robust reliability, low failure rates, and manageable long-term maintenance. For Vietnam, this reliability matters enormously. The country needs national infrastructure that will function dependably for decades without recurring crises. The decisive factor was Siemens's commitment to technology transfer. Unlike some potential partners, the German firm explicitly agreed to gradually share critical railway technologies with Vietnamese counterparts. As the project progressed, Siemens would help Vietnam develop localized production capabilities and build domestic technical expertise. For Vietnamese officials, this represented far more than constructing a railway. It offered a pathway to upgrade manufacturing sectors, create high-skilled jobs, and give Vietnamese engineers direct exposure to world-class technology. When the partnership was announced, Vietnamese media erupted with optimistic headlines. People expressed genuine excitement about modern, rapid transportation finally connecting their cities. And then, barely more than a week later, everything fell apart. 8 days from celebration to crisis. In a stunning reversal, Vingroup formally requested permission to withdraw from the North-South high-speed railway project. This happened precisely 8 days after signing the celebrated agreement with Siemens. The timing shocked everyone. How could a partnership hailed as historic implode so quickly? Understanding requires understanding Vingroup itself. At its core, Vingroup is a real estate conglomerate. The company has successfully developed shopping centers, residential complexes, and commercial properties. It diversified into automobiles through VinFast. But high-speed railway construction, that represents completely unfamiliar territory. Vingroup possesses no indigenous railway engineering expertise. It controls no proprietary high-speed rail technologies. For this project, virtually every technical aspect would require complete reliance on Siemens. From a business perspective, the situation presented profound challenges. Railway projects demand enormous upfront capital. Construction timelines stretch across many years. Return on investment arrives slowly, often taking decades. For a real estate company accustomed to shorter development cycles and clearer profit horizons, committing vast resources to such a long-term venture represented uncomfortable strategic overreach. In Vingroup's withdrawal statement, the company indicated it needed to refocus resources on other priority projects. The message was clear. The railway demanded more capital, time, and risk than Vingroup could manage. For Siemens, Vingroup's exit created immediate complications. The German firm had counted on a powerful local partner who understood Vietnam's regulatory environment and possessed financial capacity. With that partner suddenly gone, the entire structure collapsed. Siemens now faces difficult calculations. Without a capable local counterpart to handle financing coordination, policy negotiations, and ground-level project management, moving forward becomes vastly more complicated. Industry observers quietly acknowledge that Siemens may eventually exit as well. The hidden obstacles beyond money. Financial challenges represent only part of the story. Vietnam's railway faces multiple difficulty layers extending far beyond raising $68 billion. Land acquisition presents enormous challenges. The railway corridor cuts through more than 1,500 kilometers, crossing diverse regions with different population densities and political dynamics. Acquiring necessary land means negotiating with thousands of property owners, relocating communities, and managing inevitable social disruption. Each negotiation carries risk of protests, legal challenges, and political controversy. Environmental assessments add complexity. Modern infrastructure projects must demonstrate acceptable environmental impact. In Vietnam's ecologically sensitive Central Highlands, these assessments become particularly challenging. Protected habitats, endangered species, watershed preservation, each requires careful study and often project modifications, adding time and cost. Then there's the fundamental challenge of upgrading from such a low baseline. Vietnam's current railway system largely consists of century-old meter-gauge tracks. You can't simply upgrade these to support 300-kilometer-per-hour trains. The gap is too vast. Vietnam must essentially build an entirely new system from scratch while maintaining current operations during construction. Vietnam's current dilemma isn't its first railway disappointment. Back in 2006, Vietnam entered serious discussions with Japan about adopting Shinkansen technology. On paper, the partnership made sense. Japan's bullet trains had operated since 1964 with extraordinary safety records. The Shinkansen brand really represented the gold standard throughout Asia. But financial reality proved sobering. Japanese planners estimated costs between $50 and $60 billion, enormous for Vietnam in 2006. Even with Japanese government backing and low-interest loans, Vietnam would need massive domestic commitments and decades of debt repayment. Another concern loomed even larger. The Japanese proposal offered a complete package: technical standards, train designs, operating procedures. Everything would follow Japanese specifications. Vietnam would lock into a single technological ecosystem for potentially 50 years or more, with minimal space for Vietnamese industry participation. After extensive debate, Vietnam's National Assembly rejected the proposal in 2010, citing concerns about debt sustainability and technological dependence. Vietnam then turned toward China. This made strategic sense. By the mid-2010s, China had built the world's most extensive high-speed rail network. Chinese firms had accumulated enormous practical experience across challenging terrain. As Vietnam's neighbor, China offered geographical proximity and cultural familiarity. Yet despite repeated high-level discussions, no breakthrough emerged. Negotiations consistently stalled over technology transfer. Vietnam wanted knowledge to build future railways independently. They sought access to manufacturing technologies and system integration capabilities. China's approach emphasized a different framework. Chinese firms would provide complete technical solutions and take responsibility for engineering, construction, and long-term maintenance. This EPC model delivers efficiency, but concentrates technical knowledge within Chinese contractors. From China's perspective, sharing technologies unconditionally with Vietnam, a potential future competitor, made little sense. From Vietnam's perspective, accepting China's model meant remaining dependent indefinitely. Neither side compromised. Years of negotiations produced no progress. While Vietnam struggled internally, Southeast Asia's high-speed rail revolution continued advancing, leaving Vietnam increasingly isolated. Indonesia provides the most striking example. Despite numerous challenges, Indonesia partnered with China to construct the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway, which opened commercially in 2023. Indonesian passengers now travel between Jakarta and Bandung in roughly 40 minutes versus over 3 hours previously. Thailand has also progressed significantly. The China-Thailand high-speed railway, currently under construction, will eventually connect Bangkok with the Laos border. Despite delays and budget challenges, construction continues steadily. These developments reshape economic geography. High-speed railways make distant cities effectively closer, enabling longer commutes, wider markets, and greater tourist mobility. Regional economic integration accelerates. Vietnam, by remaining absent, risks falling seriously behind as neighbors develop modern infrastructure and reap resulting competitive advantages. Given the challenges, Vietnam faces a critical decision. Should it persist pursuing the full 1,500-kilometer railway despite daunting obstacles, or adopt a more incremental approach? Many experts suggest a phased, pilot-based strategy offers Vietnam's most realistic path. Rather than attempting everything at once, Vietnam could begin with a carefully selected section, perhaps 200 to 300 kilometers connecting high-demand areas. This approach reduces initial financial commitment to manageable levels. A pilot section allows testing technical solutions and refining processes before scaling up. Successfully operating demonstration railway provides tangible proof of concept, making expansion politically and financially easier. Logical demonstration corridors might connect Hanoi with nearby cities, or link Ho Chi Minh City with tourist destinations. These routes serve densely populated areas with significant travel demand, improving prospects for generating revenue relatively quickly. If you were a Vietnamese decision-maker today, what would you choose? Push forward accepting enormous financial risk. Adopt a cautious incremental approach? Continue seeking international partners? Or temporarily shelve high-speed rail ambitions entirely? There are no easy answers. Each path carries significant risk, yet indecision may ultimately prove costliest. While Vietnam debates internally, the infrastructure gap with neighbors continues widening. Vietnam's north-south high-speed railway represents far more than transportation. It symbolizes a nation's aspirations, willingness to take calculated risks, and ability to mobilize resources toward long-term goals. How Vietnam navigates this moment will shape the country's trajectory for decades. The railway, if ever built, will carry millions. But right now, Vietnam itself stands at a crossroads, deciding which direction offers the best route forward. To follow this story and explore similar analyses of infrastructure and development across Asia, subscribe and enable notifications. The future is being built right now, one decision at a time.